It doesn't exactly take a genius to know that a team getting hot in the playoffs is a recipe for success. But what about a team getting hot right before the playoffs? The team has a respectable April to August, and then all of a sudden the bats or pitchers come alive in the final month of the regular season. Does that success spill over into the playoffs? That's the question I'll look to answer in this video. So, what does it mean for a team to get hot? For me, and probably most other people, it means that the team is performing better than they had been the rest of the year. So, for a team to get hot before the playoffs, that would mean their numbers in September and October of the regular season improved on their numbers from April through August. There are lots of ways a team can do this, whether it be batting, pitching, win percentage, or maybe some mix of all three. I'm going to answer the question posed in the title in two different ways. First, I'm going to look at the stories of two World Series winning teams who entered the playoffs under very different circumstances. And then I'm going to answer the question using stats from the World Series champs since 2000. Let's get into it. The New York Yankees 2000 season is a fascinating case of a World Series winner going into the playoffs just about as cold as they possibly could have been. This season was a complete roller coaster for the club, involving big-name pickups, high highs, and extremely low lows. The Yankees were coming off of their second World Series win in a row and ready to embark on a new season, hoping to put an exclamation point on this 3-year stretch with yet another World Series win. Coming into the season, the Yankees hadn't lost any major components of their batting lineup. Players like Derek Jeter, Tino Martinez, Jorge Posada, Bernie Williams, and Paul O'Neill were still around. The same goes for their pitching, with names like Orlando Hernandez, Mariano Rivera, Roger Clemens, and Andy Pettitte. The big difference with the Yankees pitching was David Cone, who had a 3.44 ERA in 31 starts in the '99 season, and then fell to an abysmal 6.91 ERA in 29 starts in the 2000 season. Here's a look at the Yankees' opening day lineup. Not really any surprises here. It was a strong lineup that hadn't changed much from the year prior. They started off the year hot with a 15-8 record through March and April, highlighted by an 8-game win streak in the process. Their batting wasn't anything special in that first month, with a team OPS plus of 95. But their pitching was strong compared to the rest of the league, posting a 4.04 ERA with only an 80 OPS plus against them. Moving on to May, the team's pitching had an improved ERA of 3.88, and the batting stayed about the same, remaining below league average with a 97 OPS plus. The slight improvements didn't pay off though when it came to their record, as they went 13-13 over the month. In June, the Yankees batters finally came to life, led by the performances of Bernie Williams and Derek Jeter. Their pitching got into a bad habit of sleeping on the mound though, and it reflected through their 10-15 record. The wheels were starting to come off, with the Yankees' record getting worse each month. So general manager Brian Cashman was tasked with stopping the downward spiral. Here's how I imagine that conversation between Cashman and Steinbrenner went. On June 29th, Cashman traded for superstar slugger David Justice from the then Cleveland Indians. This would prove to be the biggest boost to the lineup, as Justice performed at a breakneck pace for the rest of the season. Other pickups included Glenn Allen Hill, Denny Nagel, Jose Vascano, and Luis Sojo between late June and early August. As all of these trades were occurring, the Yankees were finding their footing again, going 36-20 over July and August, with a dominant stretch of 12 starts from Roger Clemens, a 10-home run August from Glenn Allen Hill, and some serious Justice. Everything seemed to be back on track. Even the first half of September looked to be much of the same. With the Yankees going 10-3 to start the month, they looked like a team ready to storm into the playoffs red hot. And that's when it all came crashing down. With the Yankees going 3-15 over their last 18 games, and the games weren't even close. They were outscored 68-15 over their last 7 games, losing by 10 or more runs on 3 different occasions. I'm not sure a team could get much colder than this going into the playoffs. It's one side of the extreme to the title question. Because, as I'm sure all of you know, the 2000 New York Yankees went on to defeat the Oakland Athletics, Seattle Mariners, and eventually the New York Mets in 5 games to win another World Series championship. So, now we've seen one side of the extreme. How about the other side? The 2011 St. Louis Cardinals represent the side of World Series winners that entered the playoffs red hot and had it turn out exactly as you might expect based on their recent success. The Cardinals had just come off of a 2010 season where they failed to make the playoffs after a disappointing August and September landed them 5 games back of the division-leading Reds. The offseason proved to be huge for the Cards, with no signing bigger than their December 4th acquisition of free agent Lance Berkman, who would go on to terrorize the league at the plate that year. Unfortunately, they also lost their best pitcher for the entire season, as Adam Wainwright was injured while pitching batting practice in February, requiring Tommy John surgery. The baseball gods giveth, and the baseball gods taketh away. The Cardinals started the season off with a bang, going 16-11 over March and April, predominantly due to ridiculous batting led by their off-season gem Lance Berkman. On May 1st, David Freese suffered a broken bone in his hand after being hit by a pitch, foreshadowing a couple of months where the team would be plagued by injuries. Despite the injury to Freese, the Cardinals pushed to a 17-12 month carried once again by their strong batting. June and July could not end fast enough for the team though, as Albert Pujols joined Freese and Wainwright, among others on the injured list, after a June 19th collision that left him with a minor fracture to his wrist. I'm pretty sure the front office was looking into bubble wrapping their star players at this point. The Cardinals went 24-28 over the 2 months, falling to 3.5 games back of the division-leading Brewers. In August, the team went 15-13, becoming painfully average on the mound and at the plate. On September 1st, the Cardinals found themselves 7.5 games back of the Brewers and 8.5 games back of the wildcard spot. It's not an impossible situation to make the playoffs from, but it's definitely looking grim with only a month left to play. It's worth noting that a major weak point for the Cardinals had been their bullpen in 2011, and over the course of the season, it had been changed so much that by September, it was nearly unrecognizable compared to the start. In the final month of the 2011 regular season, the St. Louis Cardinals went on an absolute tear with a record of 18-8 where their pitching finally supported the offense, with a 3.39 ERA. The Bats continued their reign of terror with a 122 OPS plus, made possible by the performances of 5 different players over the 150 mark. And thanks to a monumental collapse by the Atlanta Braves, the Cardinals found themselves in the wildcard spot, headed into the playoffs red hot. It's the complete opposite circumstances that the 2000 New York Yankees found themselves in. Yet, the result was the same. The 2011 St. Louis Cardinals would go on to defeat the Philadelphia Phillies, Milwaukee Brewers, and finally the Texas Rangers in a dramatic 7-game series, highlighted by the iconic game-tying triple and walk-off home run in Game 6 from David Freese. So, where do we stand on the question posed in the title? We've seen cases made for both sides of the argument now, but how do World Series winners perform on average going into the playoffs? Let's look at how hot all of the World Series winners since 2000 were in their final month of the regular season compared to the rest of their season. First off, the batting. I'll be using OPS Plus and WRC Plus to measure batting success. WRC Plus was unavailable for monthly splits on Fangraphs for 2000 and 2001, so I'll just be using OPS Plus for those first 2 years. Here are the differences between that final month and April through August for the champs since 2000. And here's what the average difference was for those teams. So, the champs were batting better in the final month, but certainly not by much. Let's do the same thing for pitching. I'll be using ERA and FIP to measure pitching success. Once again, here are the differences between the final month of the regular season and April through August. And here are the averages for those teams. Barely any difference on average with the pitching. It's even less compelling than the batting. The last thing I'll look at is the difference in win percentage for these teams in that final month. Here are the differences from the rest of the season for those same World Series winners. And once again, here's the average change in win percentage for that final month. Almost no difference again. So, if we're judging based on the stats that I've chosen here, the answer to the question posed in the title is, on average, not really. Rather, the champs since 2000 seem to be incredibly consistent with the rest of their season in the final month. And I guess it makes sense. The best teams are consistently good, not flip-flopping between good and bad months. So, whether you prefer to look at individual years or the stats on average, let me know what you think about this topic. Do you agree with what I found? Do you disagree? I'd like to hear your thoughts either way. Thanks for watching, and remember to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm Jack of All Baseball, and I'll see you next time.